All right. So, this is normal. Every year, people start evaluating the past year, talking about the future year. Some predictions are out in left field, some are reasonably accurate. I usually take these year long predictions with a grain of salt, probably say that the shorter term, there could be some accuracy because there's more relevant things that are very present to today. So maybe 3 to 4 months out, there's some good value in these articles because they're coming from very good industry sources. So that's kind of laying the tone for what the article is going to talk about.
Okay. All right. Well, look, let me go ahead and share my screen and let's take a look at this. All right. Let's do the Chrome tab. Let's do this and let's do this. Okay. So once again, this comes from housingwire.com, very well respected industry source for agents in the real estate industry. And they've got some predictions, 5 predictions for the 2022 housing market. CoreLogic's Frank Nothaft discusses mortgage rates, home sales, price growth, and more. And Darren, stop me when you want to make a point. I'll just start reading this. So,
Sure.
2021 was an extraordinary year for the housing market. Mortgage rates at an all-time low, record high annual growth in single-family prices and rents, lowest foreclosure rates in a generation, and the largest number of homes in 15 home sales in 15 years. Sellers saw a market where their homes sold quickly and often above list price as multiple buyers competed to have the winning bid. Interest rates on 30-year fixed rate loans averaged 2.96% in 2021, a record low annual average, and are expected to rise this year. The Federal Reserve has announced plans to gradually taper its supportive monetary policy. Net acquisitions of agency mortgage-backed securities are expected to cease by the end of March, and the Federal Open Market Committee has signaled possible 325 basis point increases in the federal funds target by year-end 2022. Do you want
Right.
to say anything about that?
Yeah, quick pause there. So 3% is an average. Gosh, below 3% is amazing.
Mm,
But, I think this article predicts 3.5 by year end. And if you don't know what the tapering means, is the Fed in trying to stimulate the economy, they go out and they purchase a lot of these mortgages on the secondary market to
right.
free up cash for the servicers, and so it makes it easier for them to continue to lend without constraint and maybe pushing rates up. So that's what that effect does. It keeps rates down and frees up more cash to move through the economy. So yeah, I think they'll taper, and yes, I'm confident there will be some increases, but I guarantee you, unless there's a dramatic change from what I've seen in the last 20 plus years where I've paid attention to this stuff, if it starts having a real negative impact, they'll pull back. I can, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so that's why, even though they've tried to lay the groundwork for multiple increases, as long as the economy keeps flowing, they will do it. But as soon as it has a negative impact, they'll pull back from doing that. So be aware they are adaptive, and in the end, they want the economy to continue to thrive.
It's funny you mentioned that because, yeah, right. I think today I already heard it's up to 4 now, so they'll be able to slide down to what they need, I guess.
It's very interesting because they can say that the continual uh, artificially inflated low rates created was a component that created the issues in the past a decade ago. But the rates needed to be low, and they can continue to feed the economy in the short term, or try to level it off. I think the goal is to level it off, and everybody benefits in that situation, in my opinion.
Got it. Okay, well, let's continue. Long-term fixed rate mortgage rates should slowly rise in the coming year. As we just said, look for interest rates on fixed rate loans for single family and multifamily mortgages to average about 1/2 of a percentage point higher in 2022 than they were in 2021, or about 3.5%. Even with this increase, fixed rate loans will still be cheaper than they were before the pandemic. In the 2010 to 2019 decade, the interest rate averaged 4.1% for 30-year fixed rate loans. And if 3 hikes in the federal funds target come to pass, initial rates on ARMs, HELOCs, and construction loans, often linked to the bank prime, will likely increase from 1/2 to 3/4 of a percentage point. Anything there?
No, I mean, an increase in the rates, I'm thinking about, which doesn't even relate to this, but savings. The biggest thing I hear all
Yeah.
the time is people are like, yeah, the bank pays you nothing to have money there. So
Right.
that's the one benefit from an increase, not from a home purchasing perspective, but from an interest perspective and having money in the bank.
Got it. Okay. Higher mortgage rates and home prices are expected to moderate buyer demand as the erosion of affordability takes a toll. In addition, more for sale inventory will likely be available on the market. More inventory is expected from 3 sources: new single family construction, pent up sellers who had delayed selling during the pandemic and will be ready to move in the spring, and borrowers who had exited from forbearance but continue to struggle to remain current. With more supply from new construction and existing owners relocating, new and existing home sales are expected to rise about 1% to 7 million sales, the largest number since 2006. Wow. With fewer buyers able to afford homes, we expect homes listed for sale will be on the market a bit longer with fewer competing bidders, which should moderate price growth. The CoreLogic Home Price Index forecast has the annual average rise in the national index slowing from 15% in 2021 to 8% in 2022. And there's the figure right there.
Right.
Okay.
So with all of that said, they're saying the rise in rates and those other components will then not turn negative, but reduce the rise in expected values to 8% from 15 as it compares to last year.
Great. Okay. Next, rent growth on single-family homes reached the highest ever recorded in the CoreLogic Single Family Rent Index in 2021, up 11% in the national index over the latest 12-month period. Single-family investors stepped up their acquisitions of homes during 2021, and multifamily rental starts will likely inch up. Rent growth should moderate as additional rental homes enter the market. So would you say that's more of a national picture, or we could say that's still Los Angeles as well?
It's always local. I will say I think we hit bottom in the multifamily sales price wise, and increased inventory. That was probably very late last year. That was a tough time to sell a multifamily unit, but that shifted into this year. And things have moved faster and prices have risen. Ironically, we're still in a position though where rents cannot rise, and we are the variable X of when they define the end of the pandemic plus 1 year when rents are then going to be able to rise again.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. More home sales and higher prices will lead to a rise in home purchase originations in 2022. However, higher mortgage rates will reduce refinance originations this year, perhaps by 50% or more from last year, and alter its composition. During the refinance boom of the past 2 years, borrowers looking for a rate and term refinance dominated the market.
Right, and that's why mortgage brokers were just buried. They're already we're reading plenty of articles about mortgage brokers laying off people because the refi boom is expected to slow.
Got it. All right, next. Today's home owners have a record amount of home equity wealth, and refinance originations will likely have a much larger cash out share in 2022 than last year. In addition, refinance borrowers will likely have slightly lower average credit scores as borrowers with FHA loans refinance into conventional loans with loan to value or 80% or less to eliminate the mortgage insurance premium, and a longer average loan term to keep the monthly payment low in a market where the interest rates have risen.
Yep.
Employment and income growth should continue to keep new delinquencies at a very low level. The 30-day delinquency rate and the foreclosure rate were at their lowest in a generation last year. Although the percent of borrowers who had missed 6 or more payments remained more than 1 percentage point higher than immediately prior to the pandemic. The end of the foreclosure moratoria and the CARES Act forbearance program will likely result in a rise in distressed sales, foreclosures, and short sales in 2022. But this increase will be small given the record amount of home equity that homeowners have gained through home price growth. 2022 should be a strong year for housing. Look for mortgage rates to rise but remain historically very low, home sales to increase to a 16-year high, price and rent growth to slow, refinance to shift towards cash out, and delinquency rates to remain low, albeit with an uptick in distressed sales. So there it is to summarize. Number one, interest rates on 30-year fixed rate loans projected to average 3.5% in 2022. Number two, home sales rise to a 16-year high. Number three, single family price growth slows to an annual average of 8% in 2022. Four, less refinance, but with a larger cash out share. And then five, loan delinquency remains low, but with a slight uptick in distressed sales. So there you go.
Right. Really good summary of pulling all the parts together to evaluate the market and try to predict what's expected in the future. I would say that it's hard at this point to predict where inventory is still going because it's very early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Our ratios are pretty even on sales and new listings, but we're starting to see them. Obviously, we have the very short lull, the holidays in late December. So more inventory is starting to come on the market, but it's at this point, being scooped up as quickly as it was in the past.